if I use my names correctly, I can now learn to pray properly from truthfully as a black person. And that's how people do it well.
Sure. All right. Maybe then there's a follow-up question to what you said. We saw beautiful elements that you used in the show. There was salt. There were candles. And I think as black people, we at some point we have used those things. So I would like for you to maybe explain or go further in explaining why you chose to use those things and what significance do they play in the production.
Okay, firstly we'll begin with a circle. So life is a circle. Death of one is a breath of one. So the world was supposed to be told in a circle that the end of one's life is the beginning of the other, you know. So the circle meant that for me in the process. And the salt is, we all know that body is 75% water, but generally is known as 60%, but truthfully, the body is 75% water, equivalent to earth. Earth is 75% water. And the evidence of life in water as humans, when you walk out of the ocean, the evidence is the salt that remains in your body. So even when we sweat, even when our water leaves our bodies, the evidence of that life is salt. So salt is the beginning of life, is where we live and how life is evident when we use salt. And to push it a little further, many moons ago, salt was something that we used to buy things. It had so much value that it was a way of trading. But later on now, salt is just to seasoning our food and all of that. And again with candles, how do we bring light also in a circle form, in a space of prayer? How do we light in the darkness? That's why you also use calabash to represent the little light that can come out of the planet Earth. That's why we're using those calabash. So those are the elements. And with the jacket, it was dripping salt, is that circle and how the world is created. It starts from our ancestors to us, and we share it amongst each other, and that's how we live. Yeah, those are the elements.
All right, thank you. I asked all the questions that I needed to ask.
I'm sorry, just to move away from the set and the story.
Sure.
I just want to know, how did you come up with the music that collaborated with the story? Because as young people, we listen to different kinds of music. But the music that you were producing, like a type of quiet music that says a lot, how did you connect that with the story that you're telling?
So the music was created in collaboration with the musicians. So every time when we tell the stories, we hear the sounds. Even if you can't sing, but there's a sense of sound that I kept on hearing. Then I threw it to them, and I kept on directing them how to figure it out. Then Tanzat Dube came in as a musical director to also make sense out of it, because we cannot do anything by ourselves. So you need somebody who's skillful in the element that you know. And Tanzat Dube happens to be that person for there. But me, I imagine music hitting la la la. Tanta would do the proper way of the la la. So yes, so it was a collaborative process. Or me, I listen to underground hip hop and sometimes jazz. So musically, I'm not so good. So, yeah.
Man, I'm quite hit 100%
sure
by how you could connect the story to the music. I love music. I studied music. You see me, you see music.
Sure.
But the way you were pronouncing it was like you were saying hush, but listen to me. It was beautiful, man.
Do you have any more questions? Yes, my fellow person.
Hello. Can I go to restaurant? Okay. Put layer representing ancestry, Kadijas, or Sunday Kibana, Gabi, or something. The moment you Monakara represent Abadi, you make a share of another connection. But also, I tell you, we create layer. Thank you.
So generally, from our mother's side, when our mothers get married, they are introduced to the names of our fathers. So as young people, we never, most of the time, use our mother's ancestors. And the representation of our ancestors is our fathers. And the mainly thing that you can use that could represent a father is a jacket. So for me, it was that idea of how do I trace my father's lineage. Because not to say our mothers and sisters disappear, but even our mothers, when they get married, they raise us up in the surname they're married in. So for me, it was a representation of how we came about as humans in this world.
Sure, I would. Sure. So much that I always try to process this into Ghana, and then sure. What caught my attention mainly was the breaking of the calabash, you know, and there's a meaning behind it, and often it's when there's a calamity or when during initiation something goes wrong or someone dies. And I'm aware of the rebirth of this young man and of the naming of this young man. So my curiosity, was it because mfana bekashika malakudala engena kwelisha, or because the symbolism of the calabash breaking, you know, it's not something in our families. You get in every family there's a Bible, but there's no calabash. You know, and these things are important to us as Abantu. So, and I was curious to know that. That's the first curiosity. The second one, it took me off, honestly. Because at Kaleni, I wanted to connect Nopoya, and there was so much English, and I was like, they show the festival, and then later on, but I would have laughed, and perhaps I'm interested in knowing what my choices also the breaking of the calabash. But beyond that, I loved the
representation of his death, the old skin dying and the new one being born. Because in a space of death, we break a calabash. But also when we work collaboratively, our ancestors do not know that we are playing, making plays. So how do we shy our ancestors away is to break a calabash, and they can scatter so we could continue playing with these heavy things that we are playing with. So Isingamla, the play was commissioned for a learning institution where medium of teaching and learning is English, which it was TUT. And when it came here, we had this conversation yesterday. They said, so, but it was also how these words come about. So this is the second performance of it. So I'm also glad to be here and having this conversation. And the English came up twice. So it's something that I'm not gonna keep. Something that I'm gonna take it out and see and give it a try, how it feels and sounds like.
I would like to challenge you. So again, everything is here inside. My institutions, the counter decoloniality. See it or else nobody phone listen to say it. And I love to get on.
Like in the show, the guy who not take you give a what about saying election? Through your research, or considering okay, sometimes people make choices saying they're under pressure. Okay, like most of then when they get to the other world, they can't cross over because who need want to drink, you didn't use it, so but what matters most, you for mutole yes ona LEINA, and LEINA as maybe bading kitalelaga. Do they ever consider for when only put over time? How do you research hela mo batho ba badimo? Do they ever consider for when as motho go batla? Because then ba go ha bothata bo and le modimo self or need two things that he doesn't put a temper with: freedom of choice and free will. So through your research, do people have choice or are they forced to?
So for me, and through my research, it was that we do not own the bodies that we live in. And how do we begin to want to own the names that we have? So everyone's existence is not their choice. It's something that was supposed to happen. That's why even the face that you have, you do not own. It could be traced back to someone whom you look like. Why do we fight for names? Our belonging is not our choice. So whoever has the power in that realm decides the path that you're going to walk. Regardless of you want or you do not want, at some point you're going to respond to it because we do not own the bodies that we live in. Even the names have a meaning because every name is used as a prayer. It's a special word in our prayer as black people. How do we pray? Because we never own ourselves. We look like someone, we sound like someone, we behave like someone. Why, when it comes to these things, do we want to find ourselves in a space of wanting to? And another big influence around these choices is I'm gravitating more towards hard determinism. That actually we do not have a choice. Everything that you think it's a choice, it could be traced back why you decided what you decided on. So there is there. There's something that we can look up for it. It's hard determinism. And it's a contrast to free will and choice. So there is that also in the space of creation and research. And we find these things and we use them to create and recreate the world and reimagine. Because in every book that you read, there's a book that is not written. In every play that you watch, there's another play that's not written. So what we find, we put on stage, what we write, we put up. And if you see a gap, you continue with the writing. That's why even the Holy Bible has different 40 authors.
Thank you. What I would like to speak about is how the show resonates with my life currently. So for the past few months, I think like everyone else, I've been going through this whole who are you and what do you want? And that was a very, very hard journey. Like when I saw that man on stage and when he was going through the motions, it reflects what I was going through internally. And I realized that I was blocking it all this time and I wasn't letting out how I feel about who I am and what I want and where do I want to go and all these pressures that come with this life that we live in. It resonated so much with me because I recently learned that salt helps absorb water in the body. So if you take your water with salt, then you can be able to, your cells can be able to absorb water much better than if you didn't take any salt. So with your play, that resonated very much with me because I also learned that we need to empathize with ourselves as people. We often empathize with each other, we often empathize with our family, but we almost always forget that we need to have compassion for ourselves. And that's how LEINA resonated with me because also the title of the play makes you think of your own name, where it comes from. And this is a question that I think we will forever have in our lives about our names. We also want to name ourselves at some point. We want to somehow own the body, we want to own the spirit, we want to own everything about us, and somehow we don't know if we really own our bodies, or are they really ours? Because when you're going through anxiety, and you try to, we often say, okay, no man, let me avoid this negative feeling, and you don't want to go through this feeling, and it's those difficult feelings that take you to exactly where you're supposed to be. They take you to where you're supposed to meet yourself, and we tend to think that it's outside of us, but it's within us. So that's why I loved the salt so much, because it's kind of speaking to me that I want. There's so much that I want to absorb in life, you know. And compassion is that one thing. It's my salt that I will use to absorb that. So your show was so beautiful, and that's how it resonated with me. And I just wanted to share that. So thank you so much.
Okay, ma'am.
Oh, so there's something I've learned recently during the process, that when you die, everything is forgiven.
Yeah.
And no one can prove it. When you cross the grave, apparently everything that you've lived on earth stays on earth. If you do not have a body beyond, that's why Sinamajlos are different. You get reincarnated in the next to continue the cycle. So beyond death, you cross to another world. Of the earth remains with of the earth. The body dies and gets decomposed and be eaten by worms. But your soul goes to complete the work in another body. It might be in the next lifetime, but it doesn't disappear.
But my brother, what happens to stillborns?
A soul is not a stillborn. A soul is a soul. A soul is not 3 years old. A soul is a soul. Not 3 months, not 3 days. It's a soul. The body is still born, yes, but the soul is not as 3 days old.
This is part of the research that I've also gone through. There will be your paternal ancestral lineage seated there. There will be Umvelingangi seated there. There will be your maternal ancestry seated there. And there is the oncoming spirit as you. And that's where you build that covenant. Now we are sending Utembabas. They will have anti-smangmang strong will. And Tembagazi says, yes, I'm willing to go and fulfill A, B, C, D. So sometimes you will have a choice, but the choice begins at the making of the covenant before you reach the flesh. To continue, not just for your immediate family, but for your people. So the choice was made before you came to the body, but at the birth canal, you forget what you agreed in spirit and you spend your life remembering what you signed up for and what you are accountable for. And sometimes the flesh's will is against the spiritual will, and you will adhere to the spiritual will because it's the initial covenant that you set in front of your ancestors and the Creator. I will go forth and I will be this person so that my people can achieve this. So the choice was there, you made it and you came through.
Some of the things that need to be mara e ke tlo re botsa fela ke gore mo nna ke nyetsweng teng bana ba ka they're going through ntho tseo tsa culture and all that. So there was a song a back ibitswang ka pila ibis unga mutwesa maqanana le re mo why that that song ke yona e ne ke ipotsa hobane le re linga mutwesa ke tsebele maqanana ke eng ke kopa le mpetsa ke eng so e maqala ka maqanana
Matata.
Eska mapesa matata.
Eska mapesa matata ke ngwana. And also is a thing of, I like the word you are trying to remember. And we can think about as remembering ourselves, putting parts of us, we are putting members of ourselves. We are remembering ourselves in a process. And also in life, in spirituality, some people die in a space where they only believe. Only few will surpass that space of belief to begin to know that these things exist. But majority of us, will die at a space of, I believe there's God, I believe there are ancestors. But only few would surpass that space and begin to know.
Casting cast ntho e ke batlang ho e tseba ke hore ha ne le fumana script and then be le utlwa hore content ya script e boima hakaka ne process e leng through yona hore lona o le tloe mo le leng teng hore le kene scripting le fihle le mo le delivera le yentse jwang le le kopane le challenges tse jwang pele mo
even the script and reading the script and rebona hore ibulela ka eng everything, all of those things. One thing that clicked to my mind is that whatever that we are going to do there, it's not ntwena haneng ke rona. It's something that comes from the high above, you know. So even when we started talking about it, we just never do it. Your name, Maina, Rutwineke Maina, Nasban name Shabu, Korai, Badia, so Mabito. And then what made me is that when I got home, because it's the situation that I'm facing, you see. So I'm named after my grandfather, and I have to.
In real life?
Yes, in real life, I'm named after my grandfather. And the most interesting part is that my director, on the script, and he doesn't know my name, the name Yakwadi. He does not know it. And then after that, after the performance of OTT, the second day when we were going back, I asked him, why would you character Kakwadi? I remember, hey, that's my real name. From my grandfather. And that's when I realized the works that we do, they do not come from us. But we are used as tools to tell stories. And real stories. True stories. And and when the process of not losing myself is that when I go on stage, I talk to my people, my ancestors, and say, please, I'm going on stage and I'm going to play. Because I don't think, I know, they don't differentiate whether you are playing or not. Or now what you are doing, once you summon them, they come. So I go on stage and I tell them, my people, they am going to play. I'm not, but come, but let's come out. And then when they come, they accompany me. And
instruments at all. So other elements, there is just something about being more acoustic than being more musical, right? Our director usually says, you guys are great singers. And once he says, your song was nice, just know that you didn't do the job. You did it. Because it's not more about sounding good, but it's more about what you're feeling internally. So the more we put stuff, I feel like the more emotion, because guitar has there was this other guy inside, I forgot his name, and then he was like, how do you tune your guitar? And he's like, okay, these strings have vibrations, so hence when you do one string, you can feel that string moving, and you're like, oh yeah, it's vibrating everywhere. So if it's vibrating here, it's vibrating here, it's vibrating here, and once I sing, or once we all sing now, you feel that, you receive that. So the less, the better. Yeah, I feel that way.